Hey guys, Meteorologist Chris Tomer here with this Wednesday mountain weather update, and today is another powder day. My first stop is up to Jackson Hole again this morning, and another 11 inches of new snow in the last 24 hours. You remember yesterday it was 24 inches in the last 24 hours. I mean, it just continues to pile up there at Jackson Hole. They've got this bar chart on their website, and they're up at 337. Alta picked up, I think, 5, so they're tied at 337. Vale also picked up, I think, 5 inches, so they're at about 240. But you get an idea of kind of where Jackson Hole stands relative to some of these other resorts. Steamboat's doing well. I think they're up to 235 now. But obviously, the big leaders are Jackson Hole, Alta, Snowbird across the inner Mountain West. There are some big numbers up in the Pacific Northwest as well. Here is Breckenridge, and we still have snow coming down in Breck, and you're reporting another 3 inches of accumulation up there in the 10-mile range. So it's going to be another great day across the area. Here are my bullet points, and then I'll go into radar. But we've got lingering snow this morning across a number of intermountain resorts. The next storm system moves in the next couple of days, 219 to 221. It's up in the Pacific Northwest right now. I'll show that to you on radar in a second. And then after that storm system moves through, what it does, it sets up the flow and really favors the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia, central to northern Idaho, and northwest Montana for a rich feed of moisture. There are going to be some really big snow totals as a result of this. Okay, let me take you back. I want to show you radar across the west. So here's our next actual storm system. A lot of rain, a lot of snow. Snow for the high Cascades, the volcanoes. It is clipping northern California. It might lay down 2 or 3 inches of snow across Tahoe before all is said and done today. But also BC will get in on this. Colorado, some very light lingering snow. You can't see it up over the mountains, the I-70 corridor, but we have lingering snow there, as I showed you in Breck. Here, this storm system will miss the Northeast. So you can see the snow coming through Ohio, West Virginia, moving towards Richmond, Virginia Beach, clipping Washington, but this is going to stay south of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. It's not going to have an impact. I don't have much snow in my forecast for the Northeast, to be honest. Let me show you the West. This is the water vapor at low level, so oranges and reds are going to be your drier air. Your moistures in the whites and the blues. Here's our next storm system. There's another storm behind that and a pretty good flow. Let me just kind of mark that in the lime green. This is a pretty good flow, but what it's going to do behind this low is set up in this area. It's going to favor the BC area. It's going to favor Washington State, parts of Oregon, central to northern Idaho, and northwest Montana for some of the biggest accumulations down the road. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the snow timeline here. So best odds of snow, Big Sky, the Wasatch, Tetons, Colorado, interior BC, the Pacific Northwest, Tahoe, and the Northeast. So in Big Sky, you've got some moderate snow coming this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, and then a heavy period, potentially, 223, 24, and 25. And this is definitely true for a lot of northwest Montana, up around Whitefish and Snowbull and Discovery. You're going to get some good overrun. The Wasatch, your next best shot is the afternoon of 219 into 220 with this next storm system, and it does look heavy. And the Tetons, only light to moderate this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow. Your best period, you're going to have to wait on it. It's 223, 24, and 25. It could be heavy for that period. In Colorado, light today, moderate to heavy tomorrow, and then light on 225. Nothing major. And interior BC, 219. It's late today, 219. It looks light. And then your truly heavy period, and I'm talking like 2 feet of accumulation, comes in 222 through 225. And that's very similar for the Pacific Northwest. Heavy today, but then heavy 221 through 225. Very rich flow there. In the Pacific Northwest. You know what? Drilling down to Alta, Utah here on the forecast mediogram, effective about 9,000 feet. This model is way too light for me. It brings in snow this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, but only about 4 inches. I think we're going to see 6 to 12 inches Solitude, Brighton, up towards Alta and Snowbird. So this is light. This model came in light. The winds do increase up to about 30 with the arrival of this storm. Temperatures today in the 20s, tomorrow teens and 20s, and then by the time we get into Friday, looking at 20s coming back. Let me go up to Wyoming here and take a look at that Jenny Lake corridor. This is effective about 86 to 8,700 feet. Uh, the storm system that comes in tonight, tomorrow, it's pretty light. I have it at light to moderate for the Tetons, and this model's definitely light. But then what you don't see in the extended forecast, 22, 23, 24, maybe 25, somewhere in there, is heavy snow accumulation. So it's a bit off the chart, and it's not quite picking it up yet on the 22nd, but that's coming to the Tetons. It's just a little bit of a waiting game. Okay, let's talk about the jet stream here, and this is the wind's up at about 30,000 feet, and what I'm looking for here are the brighter colors. I want to see the reds, the oranges, the tans, because that's going to be your stronger winds at 30,000 feet, steering the weather around, helping to kind of lift the air and move it in different places. So here's what I'm seeing. By the time we'll start this at lunchtime today, you can see the storm system up in the Pacific Northwest. You can see the dip in the jet. And you can also see the storm system kind of moving through the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic. Okay, here comes our storm in the west. This is early on Thursday, February 20th. You've got snow production for the Pacific Northwest, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and eventually Colorado. Here's late on the 20th. You can see the trough. There's early on the 21st. Storm system moves out into the plains, becomes another player for the east. And then what happens behind that storm is up in the Pacific Northwest. This is lunchtime on February 23rd, Sunday. You can see the brighter colors up there. That's where the rich feed is going to be. The Pacific Northwest, BC, northern Idaho, northwest Montana. That's where all the action is. Now, across the west and the southwest, there's a big area of high pressure that's settling in. So it's going to be much, much warmer and drier over California, Utah, Wyoming, New Mexico, and Arizona here during that same period where it's snowing like crazy up in the Pacific Northwest and BC. The tale of where the jet stream is going to be, that's what it's all about. Here's late on the 24th. Another storm hits the Pacific Northwest. You can see it right there. This is lunchtime on the 25th. So it just keeps on coming up there. Now, eventually, we might see a pattern shift. This is, here's late on the 27th. You can see the big opening in the jet across the west and a deep trough out there in the Midwest and Great Lakes. So we'll see what happens there down the road, but there's definitely going to be a warmer, drier period for a lot of the Intermountain and the Southwest coming. 20th through probably the 25th. Okay, let me go to snow accumulation over time. So remember on this, the light blues are going to be your lightest accumulations under 3 inches. Greens are 3 to 6, yellows 6 plus, reds 10 plus. So a couple of different things to mention here at lunchtime today. Storm system moving through the Mid-Atlantic and also a storm up in the Pacific Northwest. There's late today. Storm in the Pacific Northwest starts to roll down into the Intermountain. There is late on the 20th, snow for the Wasatch, the Tetons, and Colorado. Then that moves out into the plains. And then that flow shifts up to favor the Pacific Northwest and BC, parts of Idaho and Montana. Heavy stuff right there. Here's early on Sunday the 23rd. Very rich flow. All the way through the early on the 24th. Let's see what the 25th looks like here. Not much. A little bit of a storm system right there. There's early on the 26th, crossing the northern tier, dropping down. And here's the 27th, and boy, there's not a lot happening, is there, across the west? Everything's getting dumped out to the east with that big trough. Okay, here's my forecast. Total accumulation today through the 24th in the Wasatch 6 to 12 inches. Up in the Tetons, I've got 10 to 12, but keep in mind, a lot of that comes later in the period. That comes 223, 24, and 25. Pretty light up until that point. In Colorado, the I-70 corridor north, generally 5 to 10 inches of accumulation. In the southern mountains, 2 to 4. Northern New Mexico, a couple of inches. Very little in Tahoe and Mammoth, maybe a foot up in Shasta, Ashland. A lot of that's going to be happening in the next 24 hours. Up in the Pacific Northwest, 1 to 3 feet. All right, so look at the interior BC numbers. Anywhere from 20 to 24 inches, 20 to 28 inches. From Revelstoke all the way down to Fernie, Red Mountain, Kicking Horse. And some of that does overrun down into Sunshine. And I brought Marmot Basin's numbers up to 16. So looking really good. Central to northern Idaho could get a couple of feet, and then some nice numbers through Whitefish, Snowbowl, and Discovery as well, with that rich flow that sets up for the Pacific Northwest. Really the beneficiaries there. Here's the Northeast. I don't have a whole lot, 1 to 4 inches of accumulation. New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Just no major storm systems in the forecast. All right, we'll end on the big western map here. We still have some good snow yet to go. We've got a storm now moving on shore in the Pacific Northwest, and you can see what it does. And then we've got that rich flow down the road. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in here. Always appreciate it. Take care and have a great day.